All right, we are live on YouTube. Let me get rid of the title card, and we've got the countdown clock still going. Hey, folks, how are you doing? Technical difficulties trying to do a YouTube live event. Some of the difficulties have to do with me. Some of the difficulties have to do with YouTube. I haven't done a YouTube live event before. Welcome to all the viewers that are with me right now. It says I've got 3 concurrent viewers right now. I'm going to snag a copy of the embed, and let's see here. Bear with me, folks, as we get the show moving. All right, so I've got 2 people watching with me right now. I got a thumbs up. Hey, Tech for Your Needs, welcome. It's good to see you. I am having technical difficulties here. So, long story short, the technical difficulties started with the difference between YouTube Original Studio and YouTube Studio Beta. Trying to schedule an event in the original YouTube Studio didn't work. I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. It didn't work, so I went and tried it in YouTube Studio Beta. That worked. But then I've had some other difficulties along the way as I'm learning how to schedule events in YouTube. I originally scheduled this event to go live at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then I forgot or I misunderstood my own, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, at 8 p.m. tonight, after the kids are, quieting down and everything, that's when I'm going to go live. Wrong. I was supposed to go live at 5 o'clock. So I got that wrong. So now I'm going live. Oh, cool. I've got 4 viewers. Hey, Brad, how you doing? So I wasn't originally going to make this a public video. I'm trying to build my email list, and I did some advertising to generate new subscribers, and to entice them to subscribe. I was going to create basically a podcast Q&A training kind of a thing, live video, to where people can, hey, Groomer, where people can ask questions and hear me talk about podcasting while we're live, and so that way we can have a back and forth. And I decided to make it public for a few reasons. One, I didn't get as many signups as I thought I would. I need to learn Facebook and Instagram advertising, and maybe even some YouTube advertising, because I didn't get as much response as I thought I would like to get. It's very tricky. And the fact that they keep beta and the original studio, they ought to just go over to beta and end it, so that you're not going back and forth. Because I like the original studio for certain things, and I like the beta for certain things, and they just need to get us on one and leave us there. So today we're going to talk about podcasting, and let's see if my countdown timer, where we're at here. Well, 30 seconds. So I didn't plan out a major production. I was just going to talk some about podcasting, about where I see it going for people who are thinking about doing a podcast show. And there's some exciting stuff to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the timer. Now, let's just go ahead and start with what is involved with podcasting. I know a few people in my audience already podcast, and that's awesome. You already know what's involved. You're welcome to comment and add anything to what I'm saying, but basically what's involved is you're creating audio files with your thoughts, with your presentation. You're creating them in an audio file. It's either going to be a WAV or an MP3. Generally, when you upload it to the internet somewhere, it's going to be converted to an MP3. You're going to have to do that before you send it. But you're going to create a WAV file or an MP3 file, and you're going to submit it to a hosting service. And a hosting service could be Libsyn, which is one of the leaders in hosting services. I've recently moved from Libsyn to Simplecast. I'm really liking Simplecast. It is simple. It wasn't necessarily extremely simple setting it up initially, but I had some unique hurdles because I had 4 podcasts, and I had been podcasting for long enough that I was doing certain things unbeknownst to me in kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things. So getting everything moved over wasn't the simplest of things, but if you're starting from scratch, it's going to be very, very simple, actually, living up to the name Simplecast, and I highly recommend Simplecast. But you're basically going to create the audio file. You're going to get it up into a hosting service like Libsyn or Simplecast, and you're going to when you're setting your show up, you're going to go over to iTunes, you're going to go over to Amazon and set it up for the wherever you're going to have it sent to, SoundCloud, Switchboards, wherever. You're going to take a link that your hosting service gives you, whether it's Simplecast or Libsyn or somebody else. You're going to take that link and take it over to iTunes. You're going to take that link and take it over to Amazon. You're going to take that link and take it over to wherever, Switchboard, SoundCloud, whatever these all are called, Google Play. And based on that link, in the future, anytime you upload content, these places are checking that link multiple times a day, sometimes, even multiple times an hour or hundreds of times an hour, looking for new content. So if you post something at noon, it might show up on iTunes at 1 o'clock, but then it might show up on Google at 12:01. So it just depends on how often the services out there are checking for your new content. So it starts with the audio file, you get it out there, and these places find it. So you set it up once, and like Ron Popeil used to say, you set it and you forget it, right? Once you get these platforms all set up, all you do is upload your content, add a few notes, and everything just kind of works, okay? So you set it and forget it. Now people do the audio and the video YouTube. They use the audio from the YouTube, put it on the podcast. Yeah. I'm not going to address that specifically because I don't want to veer off course, but I'm not big on ripping audio off of videos and making them podcasts. I mean, that might work, I guess, and maybe there's an audience for it, but I think that podcast people are looking for podcast content. But a lot of people watch YouTube, or they turn on YouTube videos and then they just listen to it. They don't really watch it. So that might work actually very well. So here's the thing. It's as simple as that, but you've got to create the audio file, and you've got to create you can create the audio file and the only piece of equipment you have is a phone and some earbuds, but most people want to do something more. Most people want a better sound. Most people want better tech behind their podcast. They want to play some music. They want to do some things that are different, that raise the bar on their podcasting so that people look at it and they're like, wow, this person's really dazzling me with their content. So that usually means buying some equipment. It means buying some software. It's a little more in depth. But the problem that people have, and I get asked this a lot, people, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what podcasting, what it's all about. They've done some research. They go on YouTube, they go on blogs, they read about it, but all that information is scattered and they don't really know, okay, I do this and then I do that and then I do this and then I do that. And to get it all set up, there's no roadmap, right? And it's tricky when you're new if you don't have a roadmap. So people have the desire to podcast. They know they're going to need some equipment to podcast. A lot of the equipment is scary looking. If you get a mixer, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Mixers are scary looking. Compressors are scary looking. People worry about having the time to podcast. People worry about, what's their message going to be? So we're going to talk about these sorts of things. And we're also going to talk about, in general, what kind of equipment is needed and what I've been using and where I'm going with my podcasting in the future, because things are about to change in a major way. The cost. So let's address real quick and take off the table the cost. We will be talking about the cost of some of this equipment tonight, but the cost of podcast is whatever you make it. I mean, if you're going to go all in, you might spend $2,000. If you're just going to start up and kind of dip your toe in, it might just be a few $100s. So we're going to kind of talk about that as we go. How do you launch a podcast? Simple. Like I said, you create audio content, MP3 or WAV. You're going to take your WAV and turn it into MP3 because it's a smaller file, and that's the favorable file in things like Simplecast and Libsyn and whatever. They want MP3 files. You got to get directory approved, iTunes, Alexa, wherever you're sending your stuff, you've got to get it approved. None of that's hard, but you've got to know what you're doing to get it done properly. And how can you grow an audience? I'm just going to cover that really quickly before we really get into the meat of this. But to grow your audience, basically, I've used Twitter, I've used Facebook, I've used Instagram. I talk about it in videos. I talk about it in Instagram stories, Snapchat, whatever. But I mean, you raise awareness, you link to it wherever you can, you talk about it. Maybe you talk about things you've talked about in your podcast in other places and say, hey, if you want to hear more about this particular thought, this particular idea, or whatever it is I'm doing over there, check out my podcast episode number 30, whatever. It's not hard to promote your podcast. And if you've got a podcast that sounds good and the frequency of your broadcast is often enough to keep people coming back, that's an important thing. I have 2 daily podcasts. So I have people that are consuming content daily, or they're binging on it on the weekend and they're catching a whole week's worth of content, say, while they're out riding the tractor and mowing their lawn for 2 hours. They can listen to the whole week in one lawnmower ride and the lawn's done. Or they're taking on some other project, or they're driving somewhere for an hour to go see mom, whatever. So, but I am creating content with where there's a daily frequency on 2 different daily shows, which means every day I'm filling a room full of people, and they're expecting that every day. They're expecting a new episode every day. I probably get some new people. They download a ton of stuff. I lose a few people, and it's just constantly growing. But let's start with, you've got the desire to podcast. There's equipment involved. Where do you start with the equipment? I'm going to show you where I started, and I'm going to show you where I'm going. So let me pull up on my screen here. Bear with me a second, folks, because I do my own switching. I'm going to bring Amazon into the picture here, okay? So Amazon is where I do a lot of my shopping for my equipment. And it's where I do a lot of my research for my equipment. Now, you can go to Amazon's homepage, or you can go to I actually have an influencer page on Amazon where I sell, you can buy stuff, and I'm not the one selling it. Amazon's selling it. I just recommend it. I do get paid if you use it or if you buy from my page, but you don't pay any more for the equipment. They just give me a little kickback. But anyway, if you go to Todd.LIVE /pages/Amazon, look at autofills, pages/Amazon. There it is. Okay, so this takes you to my Amazon influencer page, and it is the Digital Broadcast Marketing Essentials. Now, this is where I try to keep it up to date, but I tend to buy stuff faster than I can update this page. But everything that I use and recommend is on this page, and I'm not trying to sell you on going and buying stuff from my Amazon page. I just know that this is where everything that I recommend exists, and all that audio equipment that I use for podcasting exists here. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to find the mixer that I've been using. This is the Mackie 1402 VLZ4. Now, this thing looks scary, doesn't it? Look at it, all those buttons and dials and knobs. But the thing about it is that it's not nearly as scary as it looks. Each row, you see how there's a row here? There's a line that goes down right there and a line that goes down right there. These are all individual rows. If you have something plugged in right here, this row matters. If you don't have anything plugged in right there, that row doesn't matter. If you have something plugged in right here, then this row matters. Okay? So a lot of us who podcast using a mixer, we have our microphone plugged in right there. Okay? And that means these knobs and dials matter, and none of this does. So people look at these mixers and they think, oh my gosh, all those sliders and buttons and dials, I'm never going to figure all that out. Well, a lot of the times you're just using one input right there, okay? You're not using the other 6 or 5 inputs. On this particular mixer has 6 inputs right there. You're not using those. Now, these are a mix of inputs and outputs, and some of them go to these dials down here and buttons, and some of them don't. But again, if you're not using that, then you're not using this. Now, why would you want this whole thing if you're not using the most of this? Well, if you get a mixer, you're probably going to use this for your microphone. You might use this for plugging in something that gives you a mix minus. So if you're interviewing somebody, you can bring them in. You might be using this to bring in an iPad or a phone with some music on it. You might be bringing in something from somewhere else, whatever. But the bottom line is that, if you've got something plugged in there, you're using that. And it's just very simple. A lot of this board, you're just never going to use. But this is the particular model that I bought because it has certain features that provide for superior sound and the room to grow. A lot of mixers are small. You can, like, I can find a smaller mixer on Amazon where there's only one of these or maybe two of these, and a lot of this is missing. Well, down the road, you're going to have a hard time growing because you're going to outgrow your mixer. And so if you're going to spend $200 on a mixer you're going to outgrow, or you could buy one that you're going to grow into and have for years to come, you could just go ahead and bite the bullet and get the right one. A lot of this is going to be kind of a moot point in the near future, at least as far as I teach podcasting, because, and I'm going to get there. I'm going to show you why a lot of this is going to become a moot point. I do believe, so yeah, here's an example of a smaller mixer that has less channels, that has less inputs, right? So you've got the two inputs. Let me get my marker again. The two microphone inputs right there, okay? So that means if you're using this one, this row matters. If you're not using that one and you're only using this one, then only this row matters. And a lot of this is not going to matter if you're not using it. But you're getting the internal components of this. You're getting the ability to grow. And most people that buy a mixer are going to use some of the other inputs. It just is what it is. I actually own this mixer too. I have two mixers in my studio, and I don't know if that will ever change. All right, now let me back up. Microphone. Let me see if I can find, this little guy right here. I have this in my studio. My mixer that I just showed you is an analog mixer. This converts the analog into a digital signal so I can run it straight into my computer. Some mixers have built-in USB outputs, which this is basically on the back side of it. There's a USB output. Let me grab my pen again. This right here goes straight into the computer. Some mixers have that. Some mixers don't. Okay? I actually own a mixer that has that, but I prefer the mixer that doesn't have that. And I almost hate to share with you guys some of this older, some of this equipment that I'm using, because I've got kind of something I haven't revealed to anybody yet, and I'm not there yet. We'll get to it though, because I still don't know if this is going to work for me or not. I use this. Now this isn't available anymore, but you can still find them around, and the new one is very similar to this. And just to be sure, let me go and see if there's any comments that I've missed while I'm on the other screens. How long should a podcast be? I'll get to that question in a little bit. So that all depends on your frequency as well. So this Roland, this is where I record my WAV files, my WAV or WV? What is it? WAV file. See, WAV and MP3. It says it right there. You can record in MP3, or you can record in better quality with the WAV file, do some editing there, and then convert it to the MP3. That way you save your original WAV file in case you ever need it. Here's the new one. This is the new one that they're offering now. It's basically the same thing as the one I just showed you. It's just newer. Okay, newer packaging. I think everything else is about the same. But here's the thing, folks. Let me get back to where I can see the screen and see what's going on. Here's the thing. I'm showing you all this equipment, and I'm building a course right now called PodSmart, and it's a boot camp. And I've recently decided to do something here. All that equipment I just showed you. Oh, here's my compressor. Before I move on and tell you this, here's my compressor. This is still available. You can find it other places. They're about $150. Here's the thing, though. Let me hit this here. I'm going to go to the website for Rode, or Rody. I think it's Rode. And we're going to type in, let's see, Rodecaster. There it is. Okay. Now, have any of you heard of the Rodecaster? Boy, they don't have a good picture of it. Come on, show me a picture of it. No pictures. Wow. Huh. Let's see if I do a Google image search. Give me a minute here. Let's find a, let's see. Let's do an image search. And there it is. So we have to go to B&H Photo. Actually, I just bought one of these today at B&H Photo. Okay. Let me see if I can blow the picture up. Is that as big as they give me? Okay. Now, this device, $599. Okay. This device is $599. I have done the research and compared this to all the equipment that I've been using. And my equipment, I have stellar sound for almost everything I do. I have the things that I can do with my system are quite incredible. It is my understanding that this device can do it all and more. Okay? For $599. And instead of having cords running everywhere, you've got this one device to do it all. I ordered one from B&H today. It'll be here. I'm going to be out of town this week. It'll be here when I get back. From what I understand, this thing is going to revolutionize podcasting in general. And it's definitely, if it's all that they say it's going to revolutionize what I'm doing and my studio. Because I'm going to get rid of everything in my studio except for this thing, if it indeed does what they say it will do. Okay? It is a podcast studio in a box. I haven't set one of these up. I haven't tried one of these. Nothing. But this, in my opinion, if it does what they say it's going to do, is going to allow a lot of people who are scared of podcasting because they're scared of the equipment. They're scared of all the buttons and dials. I mean, this thing isn't necessarily going to eliminate all the fear. This has buttons. This has dials. There's a lot of touch screen on this one as well. But it's going to lower the bar for entry. Now, this is going to change. One of the reasons why I ordered this today is because I'm working on this boot camp. I want to help people get started podcasting. And a lot of the value I was going to provide in that boot camp was building the studio. And if building the studio with the Rodecaster Pro is something that can be done very easily, as opposed to building the studio with all the other equipment, then I'm going to relook at how I teach it. I'm going to relook at the price that I charge. I'm going to relook at a lot of stuff because, quite honestly, this thing, I can't in good conscience teach people how to build this massive studio if this piece of equipment is out there to make it so much easier, does everything that this does for a whole lot less money and a whole lot easier. Even if that means that my course costs less money, even if it means that what I was planning on being a month-long boot camp becomes a 2-week boot camp. There's all sorts of things involved in the podcasting that I'm going to be teaching that's beyond the equipment anyway, that's going to add to the value of the course for anybody who takes it and add to the value of the education. But this thing looks amazing. It just looks absolutely amazing. And $599, it's got a compressor inside it. It's got a limiter inside it. It's got a gate inside. Let's talk about that equipment we were looking at on my Amazon page a minute ago. Let's go back to the Todd.LIVE /pages/Amazon. Okay. Let's look at the equipment again. So let's look at this list of stuff that this is going to substitute. Okay. If you go down my list here, it's going to get rid of, where does it start? Dun, 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 dun. Okay. It's going to get rid of this, the mixer. It might get rid of the need for the second mixer. Okay. I have 2 mixers in my studio. In order to go live on Instagram Live and have the sound there, I have to have 2 mixers. So it's going to get rid of that. It's going to get rid of this. 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 What else is it going to get rid of? Let's see here. Is there anything else it's going to get rid of? I've got 2 of these on my desk that have to do with my studio. It's going to get rid of that. I've got 2 of these on my, I got 1 of those and 1 of these on my studio. It's going to get rid of that. Is it going to get rid of anything else? That's pretty much it. So we're talking about 17, 10, and 19. So we're talking about 37 there, 57 roughly, 57. This thing is, I think it's $300. So that's $357, $365. 445. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Probably about 500. Back to this thing. 601, 700. What? Well, we're probably pushing 1200 by now. You will still need a microphone. Let's see what it won't get rid of. It won't get rid of the microphone. You're still going to have to buy a microphone. You're still going to have to buy, if you're going to attach it to your desk, you're still going to have to buy a boom, shock mount. I mean, there's certain things that you're still going to have to buy, but you're going to be able to buy that Rodecaster. I think I have it in my list here, even though I can't find it for sale on, they've removed it. I think they've removed it. I did have it for sale in my store, and for some reason it's not on Amazon anymore. I don't know if the inventory got really low or what. But folks, your ability to start a podcast is going to get a whole lot easier really fast. Whether you're learning it from me or not, the fact that you can buy something like the Rodecaster Pro and have all this equipment. I mean, this is one of the major barriers of entry for a lot of people is the equipment, the space for the equipment, the expense of the equipment, and hey, am I peeking out for anybody? Does anybody, one thing over here is telling me I'm peeking out some, but my bars on Wirecast are telling me I'm not. So I don't know if I'm clipping at all or not. Feel free to leave a comment if you see me clipping. I've been needing to adjust the volume on it for different things that I've been doing. So hopefully I'm not too hot with you guys. But this Rodecaster Pro is going to change everything, but there's still a lot involved. There's still learning how to create the files, learning how to edit the files, learning how to set the whole podcast up on the internet, getting the art done, getting the show information done, the intros and outros, how to use sound effects, how to create your show, how to dial in the show. I mean, there's a lot that I'm going to be teaching in this boot camp, but this is not a video to sell you on the boot camp. I'm just, I went into this weekend planning to do this show in exchange for people signing up to my email address to talk to them about them doing their first podcast show ever. Okay. There's a lot of fears with starting a podcast show. There's a lot of unknowns if you don't have help doing it. And so this video was actually going to be unlisted. I screwed up the time, but I decided to make it public because of my monumental weekend researching this Rodecaster Pro and my decision to turn everything in my studio up on its head. I watched a video today by Cliff Ravenscraft where he, it's about a 20 or 30 minute video where he talks about the Rodecaster Pro. And I learned how to podcast from Cliff. I took his course 3 years ago in September. So almost 3 years ago. And he taught me how to hook all this stuff up. And he's done a video recently saying, I'm getting rid of all this crap. I'm getting the Rodecaster Pro. Well, he already had one. And I've already been researching the Rodecaster Pro before I saw Cliff's video today. But I trust Cliff, and I know Cliff. And Cliff has had a very long podcast journey, 14 years of podcasting. And I've seen all the other reviews. All the other reviews are people are going nutty about it. When I see Cliff saying this is changing everything, it confirmed what I was already thinking for myself before I saw that video with Cliff. And I ordered it today. Some of you watched my Instagram stories, and I talked about some things that I ordered. I also ordered something else, which I haven't revealed yet, and I'll reveal that later. But I spent like $1,600 or $1,700 on equipment today, and I'm going to sell a lot of this stuff on eBay. I've got 2 of those Mackie mixers I showed you. I have 2 of those compressors I showed you. I have 1 Focusrite. I've got doubles and triples of some of this equipment, and I'm just going to move it on eBay and probably go with the Rodecaster and see where that gets me. I probably will sell stuff after I see where the Rodecaster gets me first. But, I'm not worried about dropping that money today because I feel like I'm going to sell all this other stuff that's already been paid for a long time and totally recoup that money and more because I'll be selling this off piecemeal, and a lot of this stuff will sell for good money. Some of this stuff is actually discontinued and people are looking for it. Dave Foster, live streaming pros uses. Yeah, I thought I saw him looking at it. I do think you can use it for live video, which excites me about that as well. If the thing can be set up. What worries me about using the same stuff for live video as opposed to podcasting is that if you need to have different settings, different audio settings, different levels, and every time you go from one to the next, you've got to change everything. And if I find that's the case with the Rodecaster Pro, that I'm having to adjust everything, then I'll have 2 Rodecaster Pros. One of them will be designated for podcasting. One of them will be designated for live video. All the cords will be plugged in for live video into the one that needs live video. All the cords will be plugged in for the podcasting for the one that's podcasting. And all the dials and buttons will be set for that particular function. I don't have a problem doing that. Part of what I'm going to be teaching in my boot camp is going to be the friction-free podcasting where everything is made as easily as humanly possible. I believe in what I call one-take podcasting. I don't do any editing aside from adding compression. But if this Rodecaster is adding enough compression, I don't have to add compression in the future. I won't add compression in the future. That'll take a step out, okay? My process without the Rodecaster Pro is streamlined to such a degree that if you follow my methodology with all this equipment, you're going to have a great sounding podcast with little work, even if it's daily. And it is still a lot of work. I don't want to lie and say it's not a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it's easy work. It's busy work. It's not hard. And you get into a system and you just boom, 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 and you get it out. Now, I think the Rodecaster is going to simplify things even more. And it's going to make things less expensive for new people getting in. I'm really excited about it because if I could have a course like the podcast boot camp, I call it PodSmart, the PodSmart boot camp that I've been working on, I've been thinking it's a $2,000 price point because of the level of knowledge that's involved in setting up what I've been currently using. But if I'm not teaching that anymore and I'm teaching the Rodecaster Pro, I might be able to chop that course price in half so that I'm getting you set up on the Rodecaster and I'm teaching you everything else I was going to teach you anyway that's outside the equipment, which is well worth that cost anyway. But I'm just excited because that means I can help more people out in the long run. Maybe I can cut it down by 75%. I don't know. I'm just terribly excited that high quality audio podcasting can possibly be available at a reasonable price and eliminating all the fear. That's going to let a lot of people who aren't podcasting today and who keep putting it off get into podcasting. Somebody asked a question a few minutes ago. How long should a podcast be? That's my friend over at Tech for Your Needs. That's tricky. Okay. How long? Okay, we've been going live for 30 minutes. I just want to make sure that, if there's any problems with the signal, let me know. It is telling me on YouTube that I have an excellent connection, but the little signal bar next to it is yellow instead of green, which I think is odd. I would figure that green would mean excellent connection. Maybe that it's yellow. It's like gold. Like I'm gold. Everything is good. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's other colors like red if it's bad. If I go over here on Wirecast, let's see how that looks. Yeah, Wirecast, I've got green. I am pushing out very high quality video, probably too high quality. I probably need to back it down a little bit. I'll probably get overall a better signal. But I was going to say something a minute ago. I was going to answer a question here. How long should a podcast be? That depends on what you're trying to accomplish, how often you're going to do a podcast, how much time you have to do it. I mean, there's a lot of variables there. I have a daily podcast. Okay. I have 2 daily podcasts, Entrepreneur Live Video and Grammar School. Of course, you already know that because you and I converse on a lot of platforms, and I know that you already know that. But of course, new viewers might not know that. Podcasting daily, I can't have 2 daily shows that are an hour apiece. So podcasting daily, they're like my rule is 5 to 15 minutes. Sometimes I'm less than 5 minutes. Sometimes I'm more than 15. It just depends on what the topic is about. And I think that my audience doesn't mind it if it's short, doesn't mind it if it's long. They just go with the flow. If you're going to do once a week, it might be an hour. If you're going to do interviews, it might be like a minimum of a half hour. I think it's Nathan Latka. God, it's been a long time since I've thought of him, but Nathan Latka, I think is his name. He's got a show. I can't remember if it's called the Power Hour or whatever it is, but it's only like 15 minutes long. And he has interviews that are 15 minutes long, and he gets in and he's just screaming and going nuts, asking questions. And his guests I think they're probably encouraged to answer very, very quickly, and they get in and out really, really quick. So it just depends. And I don't think he's a daily show, although he might be. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've listened to him. But you want to figure out what's going to work for you. That's where you have to start. If it's not working for you, you're not going to be successful with it. So if you're wanting to do weekly, you've got to figure out what's going to work for you weekly. If you're wanting to do daily, you've got to figure out what's going to work for you then. You could have a show that's doesn't have a set schedule. You send up a podcast whenever you have a moment to send up a podcast. I know podcasters out there that will do 1 or 2 minute podcasts. They'll drop them out throughout the week, and then they have a big one, say on a Friday. So it all depends on what you want to do. You don't have to commit to any one thing, and you can change as you go, as you dial in what's going to work for you. And you can ask your audience what's working for them. I do have some personal thoughts about longer or shorter podcasts and frequency of podcasting. I think that things like Instagram stories and Snapchat have changed the way we consume content. We love short bites of content that pack a lot of power and punch and influence and are interesting in the shortest amount of time frame possible. Like Snapchat's 10-second snaps. Instagram stories is 15-second stories, right? Vine was like, 3 or 4 5-second clips, and everyone loved Vine. Who knows why that had to disappear? But, we're conditioned to want things very quickly so we can move on to something else. We're conditioned to have a short attention span. So I like the daily routine where it's 5 to 15 minutes because I can go daily. So people, they think about me on a daily basis, or if they think about me on a weekly basis, they're thinking about me for a long time on the weekly basis because most of those people are binge listening on the weekend. They download a big batch of episodes all at once and listen to a whole bunch at one time and get a big giant dose of Todd.LIVE, which is really cool. But, I want people thinking about me on a regular basis, which means I need to create more content. I need people that are willing to think about me on a regular basis, which means the content has to be shorter. It has to be something that they can consume in its entirety in a short period of time, and get in and get out and get on with their life. They know that if they listen to me on a Monday, I'm only going to keep them 5 to 15 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer. Maybe, which is rare. So people can devote that kind of time. And podcast listeners are podcast listeners. People that are going to want to listen on a podcast, they like podcasting. They like what podcasting's about. They like how podcasting works with their time and how they work their day. So I think a lot of those people wouldn't care if I went an hour. Even if it was daily, a lot of them might listen daily. But the bulk of people are going to look for the shorter content. They're going to look to get in, get out. So whatever works for you. I know that's a big, long answer, but it's whatever works for you, whatever works for your audience. The other thing with the batch content, what I do daily, is I will record all in one day. I've recorded before a month and a half in one day. A month and a half of episodes I've recorded in one day. That was a day from pure hell, but I recorded a month and a half in a day, or maybe it was a month and a third. It was probably a month and a quarter. I think I got like 37 to 40 episodes, somewhere in there. 40 episodes in a day. I was worn out, but I got a whole month and another week out of that one day. I didn't have to do it for another month and another week, right? I could go do other things. You can't do that with an hour-long podcast. You can't have a daily 1-hour show and record in one day. You record in one day, you might get 7 episodes. I mean, you're going to be working your butt off with doing daily 1-hour shows, and nobody's going to want to listen to that much. It's just not going to happen. So, dial in something that's going to work for you. Are there any questions? I've been going for about 38 minutes. I got totally thrown tonight because of the problems I was having with YouTube Live. I got totally thrown tonight by my own mistake of choosing 8 o'clock Eastern instead of 8 o'clock Pacific, or 5. I should have chosen 5 o'clock Pacific and told everybody, hey, I'm going live at 5 o'clock Pacific. Let everyone else figure out that it's 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, or whatever. The broadcaster, if he's going to say he's going to be there at a certain time, needs to be there. So I think the time needs to be, I'm going to do it in a fashion in the future that I remember it for sure, so that I don't break my promise of going live. Comments kind of dried up. I am willing to stick around for another couple minutes if anybody has anything they want to ask, but otherwise I'm probably going to shut it down. I think it's been a good little show. Your first podcast show ever. Lots of little perils involved in this one. Hey, I love being here. Thank you for watching. I'll iron out my YouTube live routine. I'm going to be going live once I get my website totally where I want it and get this PodSmart course moving along. I'm going to be broadcasting on YouTube a lot. I'm not going to broadcast on Facebook probably at all. I'm not going to broadcast on Twitch. I'm going to put all my eggs into YouTube, do a lot of YouTubing, do a lot of Instagram videos, and just provide as much value as I can and hang out with you guys as much as I can. Folks, I'm losing my voice. It's been a great pleasure being with you tonight. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Stay productive, my friends.